3:30 in the morning, I thought the drunk man across the street was just yelling at himself until he suddenly crossed the road and started trying to get into the gas station where I was working alone. A little over a year ago, I worked the overnight shift at a small gas station near my house. I was 31 at the time, and yes, I know it sounds risky for a woman to work the graveyard shift alone, but the store was usually dead quiet. On a busy night, I'd see maybe 30 customers during the entire 8-hour shift, and the one thing that made me feel safer was the sheriff's office sitting directly across the street, maybe 20 feet away. So I never really expected anything serious to happen. One night, around 3:30 in the morning, I stepped outside to sweep the parking lot and check the trash before taking a cigarette break. I had one earbud in, listening to music, just trying to stay awake. That's when I noticed someone across the road, a man standing in the sheriff's office parking lot. He had his back to me and was swaying slightly while looking down. At first, it honestly looked like he was just relieving himself. Still, doing that against the sheriff's office seemed strange. The building had been closed since 4 p.m., and it wouldn't open again until 6 a.m. So why there? Then I noticed something familiar, a ripped white t-shirt, and suddenly I remembered him. He had come into the store about 4 hours earlier. Even then, he had given me a bad feeling. He was already drunk and acting a little too creepy. So, I decided not to stare. I looked away and tried not to draw attention to myself. For a while, it worked, until a car pulled into the parking lot. While I was helping the customer outside, I noticed the man again. He kept looking back and forth, from the car to me, and then back again. When the customer was leaving, I walked her out. That's when we both heard him. He started yelling, not just talking loudly, actually shouting and swearing. It sounded like he was arguing with someone, except there was no one else there. The woman looked across the road and quietly told me, "Be careful." I laughed awkwardly and joked that he should probably be the one afraid of me. But honestly, I didn't feel brave at all. By then, the man had moved closer to the road. Now he was facing the parking lot of my store, still swaying, still yelling things I couldn't understand. He could barely stand straight, and something about his face bothered me. There was this strange darkness to his expression, and his eyes looked wild. From my experience working night shifts, the ones with that kind of look are usually the worst ones. I wanted no part of it. I still had 3 hours left in my shift, and 2 hours before any co-workers would arrive. So I went back inside the store. Immediately, I went to the computer and printed a sign that said, "Temporarily closed," just in case he decided to come over. And right as I was walking toward the doors, I saw him. He had already crossed the street, and he was heading straight toward the store. I barely managed to lock the second glass door, right as he stumbled into the parking lot. Through the glass, I made a quick gesture across my neck, basically saying, "No, we're closed." I shook my head, hoping he'd just leave. For a moment, it looked like he would. He started walking away. But then, suddenly, he screamed something at me. Not the kind of annoyed shout you'd expect from someone turned away. This was rage. He was yelling at the top of his lungs, throwing his arms around violently. That's when I decided to call the police. And it was a good thing I did, because the moment I hung up, he came back, straight to the door. He started pulling on it, then banging on the glass, hard. At one point, he even stepped back and threw his body against the door, trying to ram it open. The glass held, but watching it happen was terrifying. Then I made a mistake. I shouted through the door that I had already called the cops. The moment he heard that, he ran, just like that, gone. When the officers arrived, they searched the road and nearby neighborhoods for over an hour, but they never found him. He had been on foot, and somehow, he had just disappeared. He never managed to get inside, and since the police couldn't locate him, I didn't bother filing a report. I stayed behind those locked glass doors for the rest of my shift. Technically safe, but completely shaken. For the next 3 months, I kept working there. And every single night, I caught myself looking over my shoulder. Because maybe warning him about the police was a mistake. If I hadn't said anything, maybe they would have caught him, but I'll never know. All I know is this: I'm really glad I don't work there anymore. I messed up. I messed up badly. They're coming for me. I can already hear their footsteps outside the door. Listen to me. If you ever see a flyer or ad looking for a night guard at a prison, don't take it. Just don't. I made that mistake. And I know that once I'm gone, they'll be looking for someone else to replace me. Someone else to sit in this building and follow the same rules I tried to follow tonight. No one warned me. No one told me what I was signing up for. And before it's too late, I think people deserve to know the truth. It started this morning while I was looking for a new job. My teaching career had just ended, and I was desperate for work. While browsing online listings, I came across an ad for a night guard position. The moment I saw it, I felt relieved. In my mind, I pictured an easy job, sitting in a chair, watching CCTV cameras all night, barely having to move, getting paid to do practically nothing. What could be better? Then I noticed the location. The job was at a prison. That part made me hesitate. I wasn't sure how exactly I was supposed to guard a prison by myself. And the thought of chasing down a murderer if someone escaped didn't sit well with me either. Looking back, that uneasy feeling should have been my warning. So, should the fact that the ad had no job description at all. It was sketchy, but rent was coming up, and I barely had enough money for that, let alone electricity or water. So, I applied anyway. Less than 30 minutes later, my phone rang. The employer told me I had the job. No interview, no background check, nothing. Just, you're hired. That should have been another red flag. But I was desperate, so I accepted. My first shift started that same night at 8 p.m., but they told me to arrive 15 minutes early for a briefing. When I got there, the day guard was already preparing to leave. He stood outside a locked office door, the room filled with CCTV monitors that I assumed I would be using. But he told me I wouldn't need them. Then he handed me a letter. He said I was supposed to read it before starting my shift. Before he left, he wished me luck and casually mentioned something strange. Apparently, there had been a new night guard every single day that week. He said the job could be unpleasant. After he walked away, the prison felt suddenly very quiet. Too quiet. I stood there in the empty hallway, holding the letter, trying to ignore the growing feeling in my chest. But I was already there. I couldn't just leave, so I opened the letter. And that's when things started to go wrong. The message was short and written like a list of instructions. It said there was no need to watch cameras or patrol the prison. Instead, there were rules I had to follow. Exactly. Between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, I had to spread salt in a straight line in front of several specific prison cells, while repeating the phrase, "Capti maner." If I failed to finish before 9 o'clock, I was supposed to hide in the employee bathroom with the lights off and pray they didn't find me. At 9:15, I would hear scratching and growling coming from certain cells. I was told to ignore it and under no circumstances look inside. Between 10 o'clock and 10:15, if I felt a cold breeze, I needed to hide under a desk in the employee lounge and hold my breath for 30 seconds. If I needed to stay longer, I could. At 11 o'clock, I was supposed to turn off every light in the building. The note warned that I might feel an intense fear of the dark, but no matter what happened, I was not allowed to turn the lights back on because, according to the letter, they can't see you when it's dark. Then came the most important rule. Starting at 12 a.m. and every 15 minutes until 3:45 a.m., I had to walk to cells 1 through 3 and knock on each door exactly 3 times. Each knock had to be exactly 1 second apart. The letter said they like consistency and they cherish noise. If I forgot even once, I was supposed to hide in the employee bathroom with the lights off. The letter warned that they would still find me, but at least I'd have time to say goodbye. The last instruction was simple. If I made it through the night, I had to lock myself in the employee lounge and ignore any knocking on the doors or windows. If I saw a figure outside the window, I wasn't allowed to look at it for more than 10 seconds. It would leave after an hour, and once the sun rose, I could go home. The letter ended with just 2 words. Good luck. Right now, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm hiding in the employee bathroom with the lights off, and I just realized something. I forgot to knock on the doors at 3:45. The footsteps outside are getting closer now. So if you ever see a job ad for a night guard at a prison, please don't take it.